Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. We are here. We made it to Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes, sir. Finally did. We got to watch it in theaters, luckily.
I'm assuming you had an excited crowd, just like I had an excited crowd.
My crowd was cheering at every goddamn thing, and it was wonderful to watch.
This little girl there who at first seemed bored by the movie. Like, it was very clear to me that the dad was there for the movie and he brought his kid. But at one point, Doctor Strange comes on the screen, not the first time, and she clapped, like she did a slow clap and went, "Doctor Strange." And I was like, all right, like she's having a good time. By the end of the movie, she gave it a standing ovation. And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
Good for it. I mean, the dad the whole time, edge of his seat, like, come on. But like that little girl was like, does she even want to be? Oh, she's enjoying the movie. Good for her. But yeah, the movie in general, we just up top, is a movie about Peter Parker Spider-Man, the Tom Holland one, of course, who has immediately been found out, and we start immediately after Far From Home, and he's trying to get MJ out of harm's way, and basically he sees the complications of people knowing who he is. Like, his family, his friends are all being attacked on what seems like unfair, but I guess to the people making these decisions, fair enough persecutions, and then, which we can get into, and he decides, I'm going to talk to Doctor Strange and get it so that no one remembers who I am. That way everyone can live their life and they don't have to suffer for my choices. And he messes that up. And basically the spell becomes anyone who knows who Spider-Man is comes into that universe,
because that's an essential line of dialogue that he says right before the spell goes haywire or something like that.
He says everyone who knows I am should keep remembering. But
basically everyone
the spell becomes everyone who knows who Peter Parker, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, enters their universe, which is
he made
different,
because he made like 5 to 6 edits, because it's like, oh wait, MJ and then Ned and then Happy and then May.
I would say that the way the movie plays out as opposed to the trailer, it does feel like it is actually Peter's fault. Like, it doesn't, the trailer kind of makes it seem like he's just kind of making these requests and then Doctor Strange gets angry, but it's kind of like, no, he did mess things up. Like,
he totally did.
That was his mistake. But anyway, so that's what happens. 5 villains enter the scene and we watch how they deal with those villains. That's the movie. Now let's jump in right away. What did you think of the movie?
Oh man, this one thing I've been saying to people, I usually don't love when a movie panders to every fan service request out there, but this did it in such a way where it earned every single thing. Everything was so well done. It was great, and it earned its cheesiness. It earned those moments. It just did a lot of stuff, and I can't wait to get to the rating, because I think we're gonna have a very similar one. But yeah, that's overall how I felt about the movie. This was just something that I didn't think they could pull off without a good amount of like, oh, they should have done it like this, they should have done it like this. I didn't hear any of that at all from anything or any sources in anything.
I also thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I've definitely seen people who think this movie sucks, but
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
There's people who I think are,
but
I don't mean this as they're a sad person, but I just mean like they don't seem happy in general.
They're bitter.
I think there's
bitter people,
but there are also people who I'm just like, well, yeah, you don't like Marvel movies, so is kind of like, okay, yeah, it's more
heavily biased then. Like. Yeah,
it's not even that. It's just more I've come to a realization, like, I shouldn't be upset by someone not liking something. Like if I can already pinpoint based on their other reviews that they just don't like what
Mhm.
MCU does, then I don't need to read the reviews. I mean, I think it sucks for them as a professional, but I do think that, yeah, I don't need to read the reviews of
Mhm.
certain movies because I'm like, well, I think that if your brand is such that you just, this is your take and it doesn't really matter what happens, then
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't see the point in reading what you have to say if I already know what you're going to say before I read it.
I agree.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's my take on most of the negative stuff. There are some
Mm.
people that just genuinely, what I would say is the movie is good if you have cared about Spider-Man throughout the years. Not it
Yes.
doesn't necessarily. I mean, I think it works on its own, or at least as a third entry in this Tom Holland
Mm.
trilogy.
Mhm.
But I can also see how you might just be like, based on what happens in the movie, just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. I understand that, but obviously that's not us. That's not what we
Mhm.
obviously have been invested. So I think that it's good in that sense that it knew its audience and executed well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I would also say is it was a lot sadder than I anticipated. I think there was nothing that surprised me in the movie only because I'd heard so many different things. So
Oh,
everything
wow.
I'd heard actually happened,
Mm.
and that did not ruin the experience for me at all. Like when, for the big one, like when Aunt May dies, I still
Mhm.
was on the verge of tears. Like I still was just like,
Oh,
because
yeah.
Tom Holland and Marissa Tomei are selling that scene and what they're losing. Like it's what
Yeah.
I said about Infinity War. Like
Mhm.
I can know that those people are going to blip. And I mean, I feel like I knew that she wasn't going to come back, even though the storyline that they were vaguely doing was the storyline where Aunt May dies and he makes a deal so she can come back. And they
Mm.
didn't do that in this movie. She does not come back. She's
Right.
just dead. He is legitimately on. But I think the big thing about that scene, even though I knew it was coming, was I wasn't prepared for how well Tom Holland would sell. I can't believe I'm going to lose my person.
Yeah.
Like that is, you already know he lost his parents, you already know he lost Uncle Ben. I understand that people don't feel like they leaned into that enough, but we know that it's a thing,
Right.
that he lost those people. You know, he lost Tony Stark.
Mhm.
So for him to lose Aunt May, conceptually I was like, yeah, that's gonna suck, but it was just in the moment he really sold like the anguish, and just even the fact that she doesn't die right away. Like there
Yeah.
is a moment of her being like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just let's get on. And I loved the way she played it. Like it was a
Mhm.
really good death scene for Marissa Tomei. Like it didn't feel like she went like, "Ooh," and had her eyes roll back in her head. Like you could feel her like holding on, or even I feel like she even had a moment of like, wait, what is happening? Like she's like, oh, I am going. Like
Yeah.
it happened in phases, and I thought that was really well done. That was
Yeah.
what I mean by like the execution is good. So even if you're someone like me that heard Aunt May is going to die, these characters are going to show up. These are going to be the motivations of all these characters. It was the execution that made it still worthwhile and still
Yeah.
engaging and exciting.
Yeah, because this movie, once it got to a certain point, I started realizing, okay, this is where they're ultimately going to go with this movie. Big characters are going to die, and it's most likely going to be Aunt May. And that was just based on, you know, how adamant she was about, like, you got to save these people. That's not you. That's not who you are. That kind of stuff, and be like, no, we made the right decision. Every single thing that she's doing here, I'm like, we're building her up too much, and this is the movie she's been the most involved in, and this is gonna suck. But yeah, that scene, the way Marissa Tomei, like, and we knew Tom Holland could play that scene of loss. I don't think I was afraid of that, because every time I want to cry, like if I ever kid myself to be like, I could be an actor, I'm going to play this scene right now, I think of the Tony Stark scene, and I think of Peter. Mm-hmm. Or I think about Peter being like, something's wrong, Mr. Stark. Like, I don't want to go. Like, mm-hmm. I just think of him and I can cry. Like, he's crazy. And that scene, now I need to think of Marissa Tomei, because she's so strong during that scene. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, and the way she goes, it's not like
she went out swinging, like legitimately, like the whole time, like just him being like, May, please run, May. Like, and I guess we should just say what happens is the five guys. So, to go back a bit, obviously you've seen the trailers. You know that Dr. Octopus Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard show up. They are the main villains from Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man movies.
The Raimi and Mark Webb universes.
Because obviously they know
Peter Parker.
Yes. But did Electro know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man? I feel like he had this dichotomy of like, I know Spider-Man and he knows me, and I'm upset that he doesn't remember me. But I mean, that does kind of get into what I had issues with the movie. If there were issues, but
so on that note, real quick. Sorry, go on.
No, continue.
So on that note, real quick. I mean, like we could pick at that. That's one thing we easily could pick apart. It's like, hey, if it's everyone that knew Spider-Man, where's Kristen Dunst? Not that I wanted to see her in this movie. Where's
I
these
think the
other
movie does a
people?
good job of being like they roped in people by accident or not into their events, but the movie does have dialogue that suggests those people are still roaming around. They just didn't get roped into the action. So that's not an issue.
Gotcha. That's what I want to think about how you thought about it.
It is that they roped in people because they actively went looking for the other villains. Those villains weren't just going to show up.
That's correct. Yeah,
Doc Ock and Green Goblin just happened to appear in that area, but he had to actively seek out those villains, and then we know that Ned accidentally ropes in Toby and Andrew. But basically what I was going to say is, so for me, we talk about it every time, like what is the main thing being explored here? For me, it was redemption. So it's these villains show up, and Doctor Strange, I guess, knows, well, at least Dr. Octopus says, like, well, I know Norman and he got killed by Spider-Man, so that's crazy. And basically you realize all of these characters realize, oh, I got killed by Spider-Man. And so the whole thing for Peter, who is already feeling this guilt about, man, my decisions led to MJ and Ned not getting into university, or Aunt May and Happy have these serious legal issues because of my decision. Like, I think they were going to charge Aunt May with child endangerment or something like that. And Happy has all this Stark tech and all this stuff that will be associated with the actions of Spider-Man. So like, he's already like, I can't let other people like suffer, because even if it's me in a different dimension, he wants the chance for these people to be able to redeem themselves. And so they come up with this idea of, we'll just suck out their powers so that they don't do the evil things that will get them killed. That's the plan.
We're gonna cure them, so to speak. They all have a method of being cured.
Well, it really drives home when Norman, which I was happy they really held on to that whole, he's Norman, then he's the Goblin, he's Norman, then he's Goblin. Norman showing up at Feast and being like, oh, I'm so lost, I don't know what's going on. And May obviously being like, yeah, we have to help these people. Like, this isn't fair to them. And that's the decision that screws everything up, is they wanted to give these people a chance at redemption, which in turn would have given Peter a chance at redemption. And Norman turns to Goblin. Goblin takes over, and I feel like you see the switch. But I thought, our audience really liked me. He's like, I'm something of a scientist myself. Like you see the switch, and he's like, you're an idiot if you thought I ever needed you. And he just blows up Happy's condo, and there's a pretty intense fight that happens. And that turns into May standing there ready to inject Norman with whatever they needed to inject him with, which doesn't work. But he kills her with like a hit with the glider, and
the exact same way that he died at his own glider.
Because he got
similarly
impaled.
Yes, like
the glider killed her, but
in that fashion of like, audience will kind of get what I mean when they watch Spider-Man 1 and watch this. It was symbolic. Like, there's a lot of throwback elements to this whole movie that was like symbolic, right? Let's make sure Doc Ock has dialogue from his movie. Let's make sure
Right, the power of the sun in the palm
power,
of my hand,
exactly. Like and then like William Dafoe's like, I'm a bit of a scientist myself. I didn't pay too much attention to the lizard. Actually, the lizard and Sandman, if they had any lines from their movies or anything like that, they were consistent. They were the same characters. They were like, I just want to go see my daughter, and then like Lizard was like, I just wanted to cure everyone.
That's kind of what confused me. I'm like, one, Sandman didn't get killed.
No,
which is fine. I think we had some conflicting information going into the movie because all of it's not that they got picked up right before they died, even though I guess you need to say that for the ones who are dead, that they got picked up before them. But Sandman still got to live out his life. So the whole, I need to see if my daughter's okay. I'm like, I mean, presumably you've had years to deal with that. Like, I don't know what you mean. Like, she'd be an adult by now.
Yes, but my assumption would be that if you got transported into a different multiverse, that you would be like, you would still want to be concerned.
But I'm just saying that this his arc plays on the idea that you are like, oh, that's right, he has a sick daughter, as opposed to he actually got to live out his life for decades.
I forgot about the daughter being sick. I completely forgot about that part. I just like him, that he was just like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And then he's like,
at first I thought that was great. The first time he's like, hey Peter, like, I can help right now. Until he's like, wait, you're not my Peter. I don't trust you. I thought that was a really cool way of introducing Sandman.
I thought it was wonderful.
Like,
I thought it was
ends
really
up being
good.
A bad guy, but right away he gets introduced with Electro, and he's kind of like, hey, I'm here to help. Like, what can I do? Because he's on the, again, like, you have to remember, like, he left on good terms with Spider-Man.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, I can help. What are we doing? And obviously Tom Holland, I'm going to use the actor names for this so it's not confusing.
Please do. Please do.
Is just like, I don't know who you are, but I can, like, we can sort that out later. And then that's where Sandman's kind of like, wait a minute. No, I'm not down with this. But I guess that leaves us with, I find the Mark Webb villains were the ones that didn't work the best for me. Just
that did or did not.
Like, Lizard, sure. Like, I never cared for that villain. I don't care. But
they never give him much to do in that one too.
It was consistent that he was like, I want to turn people into lizards. I loved when Electro was kind of like, I don't feel good. And he's like, I can fix you. And he's like, you're going to turn me into a lizard? He's like, yes. I love the jail scene, basically. But like, it's
jail scene was fun.
For me, it felt like Jamie Foxx got a different script. And I'm not saying that he's bad in the movie. I'm saying it breaks the immersion when I'm like, he is doing an interesting character. I like what's happening, but he is not playing Max Dillon from his movies. And I don't understand why.
100%.
I didn't get what the choice was. I didn't understand. Sorry, I understood his choice, which is I get to just do this the way I wanted to do it. But I didn't really understand why they let him do that as filmmakers. Because as I said, like, all of this hinges on you being like, right, like, this is their experience. But like, he's not playing like a nerd anymore. He's not playing like he's like, I'm an all-powerful God either. He's kind of playing it like, I'm just a black guy that like has some powers. Like, and I love when he's talking to Andrew and he's like, again, what I said, like, he didn't know who Peter Parker was, obviously, or that line doesn't work where he's like, I don't know, you're from Queens, you protect poor people. I kind of thought you were black. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I didn't so he doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And it's like, why is he like, again, I wouldn't take him out of the movie. I am happy Jamie Foxx is there. I'm happy he got to do a version of the character that
he wanted to do.
And I understand the version he did. There is, in the comics and cartoons, there's a version like that. But I did prefer the like yellow version of Electro.
Like the new version of Electro?
No, I mean, it is still a throwback to the original comics. Like that.
Or are you just talking about the comic? Are you just talking about the visuals? Oh yeah, no, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer that. It's just he didn't fit what they were doing in terms of they know who Spider-Man is and they have been plucked from their thing. Like, he acknowledges it, like, he keeps going, yeah, I fell into a vat of eels, or like like, no, I was there, I was gonna get him, but then he overloaded him. Damn, I was about to get killed. Like,
He's like, oh shit. Yeah.
He is that Magneto. It's just he's not playing him at all like that.
Exactly.
And also, my big thing, he didn't know who Spider-Man was.
Yeah. So that Spider-Man thing, not knowing that part, that did bother me. Like, because that line, and I love that line, but I was like, wait a minute. If we're functioning on the premise of this movie being that everyone that knows Spider-Man, and he's saying this, because I thought that line of dialogue was hilarious, because
I like it, because that's what I say all
like
the time.
It a lot.
Like, it's
weird
you're
for
right.
People
to be like, no, he has to be white.
You're like, why? He's in Queens.
Everything about Spider-Man
is
stereotypical black person, like what white people see as
black or
person
Latino.
in a movie. Like anyway, the point being, two things are true. Yes, I liked his performance. He doesn't fit the movie. He doesn't fit the movie's narrative in terms of these are people who knew Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and also they are the ones from the movies he watched.
Yeah, I do agree.
This feels like that's what they were doing, that they are from those movies. It's not just versions that look like the ones from the movies.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like during and maybe because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just so bad that they were like, okay, let's just try to not remind people about this as much as possible. And like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, they did, like, they kept telling you what happened.
I know. And it's like heavily inconsistent. So like that was one of the characters, because I was thinking about this, like, out of all the characters, which ones did they write really, really well, and which ones didn't they? And it was very, very clear that they paid more attention to the Sam Raimi franchise than they did to the Mark Webb franchise, with the exception of Andrew Garfield, because I love what they did with Andrew Garfield here. I really, really did.
It was clear that they see Amazing Spider-Man movies as the bummers, because even within the dynamics of the Spider-Man, it's quite clear on a meta level, Andrew is looking for redemption. Like, they have to give him the pep talk. He's the one that's like, oh, I only fought a rhino, like a Russian guy in a rhino suit. Which feels so like funny. He does feel like, well, yeah, you guys are just better than I am.
Well, from a clout perspective, they're right. Tom Holland has gone to space. He's fought like people in, like, aliens in space. Tobey Maguire has fought an alien, to his credit.
Just, I guess what I'm saying is, yes, all of that's true, but again, he's had years after the movies we saw, so it's weird to just feel like, and that was the height of it, him fighting Rhino. Like, that's weird, because the whole point is they didn't stop living just because we didn't watch the movies. They obviously kept living their life,
especially with what he says, like after when they're all like, and I love this when he immediately loses May, Tom Holland, they're all trying to be like, we as an audience know that all three Peters have lost significant people on screen, and they're gonna be like, we're gonna talk about it right now, but then Tom Holland's like, don't, and then they just immediately boundaries up. Yep, I'm not gonna do this right now. But when they do it, it is incredible how they do it. And then the revelation that he gives is like, when I lost Gwen, and I love how he goes like, she was my MJ, because like that's how the audience is thinking about it. That was really funny to me when he goes into that. He's like, there was a couple of dark years. I took it out on the people and everything like that. I lost myself. And all that. Yeah, that was that line of dialogue was amazing to me. That was incredible, because that was something that I genuinely thought that the Mark Webb Spider-Man was going to go towards, but rather than show it, they just dialogued it, because of course no third movie. But I thought that continuation was great. I thought the old Peter, what were they calling him, youth pastor Peter Parker, with how he's dressed?
Well, they just asked, are you going to continue to dress like a youth pastor?
Yeah, that was funny. Where he was like the most, I'm the most mature at this. I've got the most experience. I'm the most Zen Buddhist mentality ever, which is hilarious, because we're like, nobody thinks Tobey Maguire is like that. like at all.
I just remember when he showed up, I'm like, of course he's the Spider-Man that didn't show up in a suit, because he's the one that famously, as an actor, was like, well, they show up to see me just as much as they show up to see Spider-Man. I'm like, no, I don't. I do not show up so I can see you out of the outfit. Like,
I do remember that.
Yeah, that wasn't like, I thought that was a nice matter. Again, in the movie, there's a very good reason he doesn't show up in his suit, and I liked it. But like, when he did show up, I was like, of course he's not in his suit. But yeah, I loved all of that. I think a big thing from the trailer is MJ falling, and I'm like, if Andrew doesn't save her, then what are we even doing?
Yes.
And so I almost teared up when he saved MJ, and he felt like he got, I don't know if he felt like he was redeemed, but I do feel like that was his moment for redemption. Like, that was what this movie was kind of like, because he lost Uncle Ben too, and doesn't even mention that. He thought, I lost Gwen. So obviously the movie is pointing you in like he needs to make up for that. Or he feels that. I don't think as an audience we feel he does, but he obviously does. And so when he was able to, I was so happy that it was him. I was just like, I'm glad they put it in the trailer, because I'm like, perfect, because it's going to be Andrew who saves her. I mean, in my world, it's like, I would even be fine if it was just, that's when he shows up to save her. Like, that was the moment that he shows up. But like, I thought, again, in the execution, they pulled it off great, because it wasn't just that he saved her. They actually let you sit with that moment of how he feels about what just happened. Yes, he's asking, hey, are you okay, to MJ. She went through something crazy, but you get to sit with his face and see the emotion that's happening for him, that he got that moment of redemption.
My audience broke when that happened.
It's an amazing moment.
It's an amazing moment. It really, really is. It's and to your point, it's one of those things where you see it in the trailer, you're like, if the rumors are true, this has to happen for him. This has to, because if it doesn't, and we're making him relive this pain with Tom Holland, I'm like, okay, are we gonna kill Uncle Ben in front of Tobey Maguire here too, and really pull out all the wire works? Like, we really got to have some redemption factor at this point. Like, at this point, knowing what we've lost. So I'm like, the moment he showed up, I'm like, great. I'm so happy you were the first one to show up, because you're the first one that can actually sell Peter Parker really, really well.
Secondly, I think he sells Spider-Man well. I don't think he does.
He does sell
well, because
I agree with that.
He is not flipping, and that's kind of why he can show up in the suit, because it's like, it's all the same thing. He's not doing different. I don't feel he's not doing different things, but he does have a physicality, so that he's in an alleyway, and I was like, that could be Toby, and then the way he moved, I'm like, no, it's definitely Andrew. Like, cool. And like, my audience, for some reason, didn't quite know who it was ahead of time. I'm like, well, the eyes, like, they made a specific thing about his eyes, but also just the way he kind of like hunches over and stuff. Like, he has a Spider-Man physicality that I appreciate, that like, that's his thing for the role. So I knew it was him, but when he pulls off his mask, people were like, ah, like, wait. They were happy when they saw him, but like, as in the alleyway. But when he comes in and takes off the mask, people were like, ah, all right, yes.
Yeah, because it was all our audience was all like, and then like, when the mask came off, at the eruption, all of it, and we got eruptions for every single reveal
everything
that we knew was going to happen. Like Green Goblin, Ock, like Blizzard didn't get one because that was a cheap out. That was like, oh, we found your green friend in the sewer and all that kind of stuff, because Strange already did it.
Lizard
that wasn't or that good reveal.
From my audience, I don't think Sandman, Lizard, or Electro got a reaction from my
Electro
audience.
got a reaction though for us.
I don't think it's because people don't care about him. Like, I mean, if they don't, I don't care. But like, I think it's more like it's like, well, yeah, it's Jamie Foxx. He's in the movie, Jamie Foxx. So that was the trailers. They kept pushing it. So I think they were kind of just like, cool. Yep. That's we know what's happening here. So it's not like a lie. I just think that I know people really like Sandman as a character. I've never thoroughly enjoyed him, and I especially didn't like him in the third movie where they're like, no, he killed Uncle Ben. Like, why?
I didn't like
that.
Why
are we undoing this? This is stupid. But regardless, I liked his introduction. I thought they did a good job with him. I really liked Doc Ock on the bridge. I thought that was great. Even though I thought they were showing too much in the trailers, I was like, no, there's a lot going on here, and I really enjoyed it. Like, even the idea that he's there to like plead his case to the MIT person. And so you're like, I mean, he's dealing with this, but he still needs to like, and you even hear later when he's like, I can't be seen like fighting these monsters if my whole thing is, hey, if me and my friends, I mean, I know he said, don't worry about me, but obviously she was going to be like, look, you're a hero. Like I've got the wrong idea about you, but it's true though. Like, is MIT going to be like, well, certainly bring him over so that he can keep doing this in our town and like messing things up. Like I understand his reasoning of like, I need to tone this down, but in the moment it's like, well, no, I got to save these lives, I got to do the right thing. And I think,
and that's what we always love about his character. He's always dealing with that conflict. Like, do I go to Aunt May's birthday party or do I save this person from a burning fire? It's always that. And it's just one of those things where Peter Parker as a person seems so unreliable because Spider-Man as a person is just so strong-willed. And you're just, and Doctor Strange speaks to that point, and to a different kind of degree that I thought he was going to. You know, I thought it was legitimately related to the multiverse, that his two lives were whatever, but he was just like, no, this is just like, I'm lecturing you as an adult because you're still a kid. You can't do this. But then he threw the multiverse in it to lecture him at the same time, which is kind of weird. Because you're right. Like,
I don't remember it that way. Being honest, my memory is before he even does the spell. He's like, your problem isn't Mysterio exposing who you are. Your problem is that you're trying to live two lives, and that's never going to work. That's my memory of that conversation. And then he still convinces him to just try and do the spell.
Right. But then doesn't he basically have the same conversation once they do the Doctor Strange mimicry stuff and he's trying to steal the box away from Doctor Strange? He basically says the exact same thing, and then he says like, and it's making the universe unstable and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he's saying like, you're so worried about what's happening when really like this is just their fate. I don't think he was tying it to how Spider-Man is trying to live a dual life. I think he was just saying you can't be concerned with that because it's hurting what we're doing.
So that was in the prison. I'm talking about specifically when after Peter's like, oh, they're going to die, and then he gets the box and he leaves the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then Doctor Strange is starting to do the portals and that's a great visual where he's like just swinging and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. I love where in the whole thing, he's like, wait, this is an Archimedes screw. And he's just like, he's like, what kind of magic is this? He's like, it's not magic, it's math. He just leaves.
Well,
I'm like, that's
that
hilarious.
was a point I was going to bring up, is that I think what this movie does really well is give you a proper Spider-Man movie. I'm not saying I don't like the other two. I like them, and I especially like context for them in terms of, well, you've seen Spider-Man do it alone, now watch him do it in a universe where there's other heroes. But I think that this movie did it with other heroes and other Spider-Man and still showed you why Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a worthy hero. And it's because this movie is him leading the charge on stuff. He's not taking like, he opposes, like, you would think that Doctor Strange, obviously not if you see the trailers and see them fighting, but if you just heard, oh, Doctor Strange is in this one, you'd be like, oh, well, then he'll be like Iron Man and he's the one that helps him through the thing. But it's like, no, this is all Tom ideas. These are all like him figuring out the mirror universe and being, or dimension, I should say. He's him figuring out the mirror dimension and being like, oh, I know how to navigate this now. Like, I don't like, it's not him being like, oh, what do I do with my tech? It's just like, I'm smart. How do I figure this out? And that is him throughout the movie, is because it's his idea that they're executing at the end, where he's like, look, okay, you know how to cure I mean, I even like that he only said, let's cure these four. And the other Spider-Man had to be like, well, you have to cure Norman. Like, we understand you hate him, but like, that's you can't pick and choose here. Like, but it is still his idea. Like, this is how we're going to do it. This is he gets to. And why I like those other two movies is when they do team up at the end and they suck at it, he's like, yeah, you guys never worked in a team. I know how to work with a team. Yeah, and that's earned because of how Spider-Man has been used up until this point.
That's correct.
It's not just like, oh, we really wanted to see them to work together, so it's going to work. It's like, no, let the guy who actually knows how to work with a team quarterback this situation.
Yeah.
And I thought this was, and even down to his new suit at the end that he made, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, it's actually like,
It's all him.
Tom, again, I'm using the actor name because
Yep.
I don't want any confusion. It's proving that Tom is a worthy Spider-Man.
It is, to me, the idea of he is no longer, and that's the irony of where the movie leaves us. And I want to hear your thoughts on that in a little bit once we talk about other characters like Doctor Strange, which we definitely need to talk about, and Wong and all that kind of stuff. But the idea of Spider-Man here, you're right. Spider-Man historically has never played nice with people. Not that he doesn't want to. Not cinematically. Not that, yeah, but like even in like let's say Avengers comics and stuff like that. He says
I don't want to join,
Avengers.
But he works with people all the time.
Yes, he does that all the time.
I don't want to join doesn't mean he's not working.
Yeah, like yes, I completely agree. He does it because of his whole like I gotta protect people in my life shtick. Because even in Avengers Towers in the comics, he doesn't take off his mask. He just like lifts up his mask to eat pizza every now and then, and like okay, you guys know I'm white, cool, whatever, but you don't know who I am. You don't know who Peter Parker is. He continues that shtick the entire time. So he's got a deep distrust of people, you know, and it makes sense how, you know, this Tom Holland Spider-Man, Peter 1, knows that quarterbacking situation because he didn't quarterback, he just watched other people do it. So conceptually he was like, okay, I know how to do this, but they're still practicing it. And I love that whole like huddle group scenario. Like, this is how we do it. Yeah, we suck at this. This is why. We're doing everything separately. We need to coordinate our attacks. It's brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah, I thought that Victor Stiff, who also writes for that shelf, we talked about it yesterday, and it was kind of like, I don't think he enjoys the other two as much as I do, the Tom Holland ones, but he's like, those feel like prologues to this. And I'm like, yeah, this feels like, as much as it is like, oh, look what all the stops we pulled, it feels so rooted in what we know about Tom Holland Spider-Man that like this is the logical step. It does leave you in a place of like, how do you top something like this? And I'm not someone who's like, you got to go bigger. It's just more like, this does feel like how you would leave it, even though it is kind of like, and now he's the Spider-Man that you know from the comics in terms of it's his own suit. He uses the scanner. He doesn't have a superhero friend telling him where to go. He's like, it just feels like, that's how you would end.
Yeah, there's no tech anymore. There's nothing like
just
that.
Like,
it's
right.
just
you can
Spider-Man.
Assume you know what happens next because you've read the comics, because he's comic ready now. Like, this is, we built him up to this point. Here you go.
He is no longer, this is, if they were right about the Harry Potter years of how this franchise was going to be, this is obviously his graduation year because, well, I mean, they're applying to MIT. It's that year, their senior year. So this is that perfect graduation and maturity. Like when Doctor Strange keeps going like, even though we say the world together, sometimes I forget you're still just a kid. Right? He goes to the idea of like, even, and I love this, when he goes immediately to Strange is like, hey, can you help me gaslight the entire world? And then Strange, like after he does the spell, he's like, he gets so pissed off because remembering that Strange is from the academic world, being like
you didn't try and plead your case.
He's like, you didn't even try to call them. He's like, wait, you could do that? And that's one of the funniest things, because I remember being that age and not getting an application and someone else being like, you didn't plead your case. I'm like, wait, you can do that? Like, what makes people think they can just, I don't understand. Like, what the hell? Like, I would never think that. And I didn't. And then I did. And then I got in. So that was great.
I mean, it's not a gap. It is just like, why would you think that if you're told, do this application, fill it out, and then we'll make an assessment? It seems like you either get in or you don't.
Seems pretty final.
I understand, and I'm not saying you're dumb or I'm dumb, because I didn't plead. Actually, I did push back, but I still didn't get into where I wanted to. But like, it is one of those things where that comes with experience, and if you don't have that experience before then like, that's to
Yeah.
Doctor Strange's point. Yeah, you're just a kid. I forgot.
So I don't know if that comes with experience or if it comes from a specific population and demographic of cultural behaviors of being like, hey, I can just talk to someone and get someone to change my idea and mind and all that kind of stuff if I do it long enough. I don't know if it's a privilege thing. I don't know if what it is, but it's never occurred to me, and I'm definitely not. I was never born with privilege, so it's like the idea of like Peter being from Queens, being poor growing up. Is his lack of knowing like, wait, you can do that? Is that because he was poor and that's true to the character, and because Strange was so rich?
I think it's just if you're a kid, then you don't know that you can do that. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
As I said, that's not really like, that's not part of the parameters of what you're doing. Like, and that's an issue with like Western education, is it's showing you how to just fit into a system and follow the rules.
Yeah,
that is a big part of it, right? So that's why I don't know that it's directly tied to privilege. Yes, there are privileged people who don't even bother with the application and just pay their way in. That's what I'm like, I think that's what you're alluding to, but that's more the privilege thing, as we saw. The
not so much. Like, no, that's not what I'm alluding to. I'm alluding to the idea of just like, I can make a complaint, I can make a big stink about it, and someone will give me what I want. Like that idea.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what is being discussed here. That's not. Oh, that's not. Oh, just make a big. It's you got this, and you know that it's the wrong decision, so you should have said something, as opposed to just like, oh, didn't get what you wanted. Like, that's why I'm saying it's different. This is specifically about entrance into university. That's a very specific process. It wasn't like, hey, that guy at the store didn't give you the last box of shoes or something that you wanted. There's a very specific way you're told you're supposed to go about it, and that the unsaid part of that is, if you are really passionate about this, you would push back if you didn't get what you like, the result you wanted out of that. And I think that what you're talking about privilege, that wouldn't even come about, because those people with privilege most likely are legacy, or they have parents that are just like, I'm just gonna buy our way in. Like,
or we can donate to the school. For sure.
So that's why I'm saying fair. I don't think it's being discussed. I think there's room for the privilege conversation, but
I see,
for this situation, I don't think that's what's trying to be illustrated.
Gotcha. I took a look into that a little bit, because I distinctly remember myself being like, I didn't know until some richer, whiter person told me to do that. Because I was like, wait, what? I can do that? And then apparently it worked. So array me, I guess. But yeah, that was so talk. I guess let's talk about Strange here. I was going to
talk about that initial thing of everyone forgets who Peter is, because that kind of affects his relationship with MJ and Ned. I mean, obviously the end result is it ends the relationship, but what I'm saying is that when they find out that was his initial plan, and MJ's like, you need to talk this through, like we can figure out ways around that, like you can't make these unilateral decisions.
I really didn't like that. That's one thing I criticized Peter for. Now obviously, him being a naive kid and experiencing the loss he's experienced, he doesn't want anyone to experience it too. So naturally, it makes more sense for a character to be like, no, I'll burden on this responsibility, especially with the speeches, right? It makes more sense. But the thing that I did not appreciate was when he was explicitly told, hey, let's make these decisions together. And then the final decision was, no, I'm still going to just gaslight everyone, just dismiss everyone, and just do what I think is best, because I feel guilty about this situation, even though I found a way to fix the MIT situation. But at this point, I'm guessing it's more about, hey, look at, what knowing me caused. And of course, man, when you hear J. Jonah Jameson laying into him in that final broadcast about like everything he touches turns to chaos and everything like that, and he's swinging through, and you're like, oh my God, for this 18, 17-year-old kid to be thinking that and saving the world and being lied to, and then losing his only mom, maternal figure, the figure in his life, he
completely loses his support system, because
he completely loses it. You're right.
at the end of the movie and he's at Aunt May's grave, it's like I didn't even consider it. Like I should have, because it was like basically no one knows. But like the fact that Happy is there, I thought I'm like an idiot that Happy would still remember somehow. But like when Happy's like, well, how did you know her? I'm like, yeah, like it really is like he doesn't exist. Like you have to start from scratch.
The big thing for me was when he was swinging through New York again, Manhattan, I think it was, and the broadcasts were about J. Jonah Jameson were being like, now it's been a week since the terrorist attack and this, and like Spider-Man is still nowhere to be found. I'm like, oh, okay, so like that spell legit changes everything, like digital recordings, photographs, everything. So it's not like he could have had a picture of him and MJ. Well, I guess he could have had a picture of him and MJ together.
Doesn't he at the end? I thought he did.
He has a Palpatine.
I thought he had a picture in his box.
I can't remember the picture, but I know the Palpatine. I know sure the Palpatine. He of course saves the cup of coffee. Not that really means anything.
No, because that happens after the fact. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's starting from square one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the significance is that she is still wearing that broke Black Dahlia that he gave her.
She still has that. I thought they were for sure going to be like, oh, she's dating Ned now.
That's what I thought.
Which still,
that's where I think they're going.
Still room for that, but like
I think we're going there now.
They didn't commit to it.
Yeah, I do think they're going there, and I think that's going to be the struggle that he's going to be like, do I tell them now and break this love apart, or do we form into a polythrouple? That'll be fun. But yeah, I do think that's going to be a struggle eventually in this series. I don't think he has the capacity to be, because he even says like, Peter, I promise you I will never be evil and try to kill you, and that kind of stuff. And I'm like,
I'm glad they avoided that. I was not like, because that was a rumor that I heard, and I was like, not into that.
I'm not looking forward to that.
I think obviously there's room for that to happen, but I just didn't want that for this movie, especially the way they were playing Ned. And I was just like, honestly, if he becomes a wizard, great. Like I think that's like cool. I know people don't like that he was able to use the sling ring, but I'm like, why not give him something else?
Yeah, like, give him something else other than the guy in the chair.
Especially now, since he won't be a guy in the chair, if he still remembers. And like for me, the dialogue is, my grandmother thinks that that there's some magic in our family. I'm like, so he's already like he's already ready to accept that type of stuff. It's not even like a Doctor Strange thing where Doctor Strange was like, no, I only believe in science. Like he already like wants to believe. He's already seen that there is stuff out there that is beyond what they teach you in textbooks. Like, why not? And it's not like he's good at it. He can't open and close stuff.
They make a point of showing him that he's not good at it.
It's just that he's ready to believe, and so he can open stuff up, and it's not even opening to what he wanted.
Listen, I mean, all these
close when he needs it to close.
I mean, all these characters are ready to take the next step, right? Philosophically, they're going to MIT. They're leaving high school. Ned's getting powers. MJ's personality is changing, right? Even after Tom's like spell, the final spell, she's still optimistic about it.
Right. She's like, I usually feel that way, but there's something different this time.
Exactly.
And I
like
that.
I really like that. So it's just like, okay, I like that he can be like, and I get why he made that decision at that point in time. I really, really do. Even though he broke the promise, I really get why he would do that. But I also get why he would be like,
broke the promise.
I'm very upset.
More for Ned, because I can understand that he had an interaction with her, and thinking back to those days, I'm like, I could also see him being like, am I really like prepared to put it on the line right now while she's at work? Like maybe I'll find another time to do it. But for him to not even engage with Ned, I was like, Ned seemed to be like the big person who's like, I know you'll come back for me. And I'm like, he didn't even say,
he didn't even try.
Like, I
that was brutal.
And maybe that's them leading to when he finds, he's like, wait, you waited all this time to come back and find me, and that's causes a rift. But I just was like, I wish he had a moment with both of them.
I agree. If it was something as simple as he sat down next to Ned and Ned came in and he talked and they talked about like
Lego or something like that, like something that they liked in common, like because he got a moment to like finish her saying, finish MJ saying and stuff like that. I just felt like, I understand for time, but again, this movie didn't feel long to me. I was ready to keep going with the movie.
Oh, I wanted this to
Yeah,
keep
but like
going.
I just felt like like it, it's as you I know you said throuple earlier. It isn't a throuple, but they are a team. Like they are like
Yes,
and for you to only give him the moment with MJ, I was like,
it
I wish he
sucks.
had a moment with Ned.
Yeah, because I mean, the movie does kind of go out of its way to make fun of the fact that he's the third wheel in this. You know how
at the beginning when he's like finally some privacy, or
Yeah.
even when he like puts his hand on them when they're trying to hold hands together.
Yeah, it goes out of the way, but I mean, like he is genuinely a part of all three of them. He's just not the romantic part. I just joke around with the throuple thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I knew
obviously,
that, but like they love each other. Like they
Mhm.
are a team. In
Yes.
that sense.
One thing I would have loved, even if he didn't say anything, was, for example, if Tom was there, sat next to him, and just left the Emperor Palpatine next to Ned and just left it there for him. I felt like that would have been sufficient to do something, to be like, hey, I love you, I care about you, and all this kind of stuff, knowing that probably Ned would take it and keep it with him for some reason, you know, like I really
Or
felt
just
like Ned
just
got
planting
the
seed of
yeah.
like why did he do that, and then like they could keep talking or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, obviously they're gonna make more movies. We'll figure out what they end up doing with these characters, but like
Spider-Man 4 greenlit, boom.
But like I only bring it up because we're talking like obviously at some point we're gonna rate this movie, and when you talk about rating the movie, it's like, well, at what point do you start fully analyzing to see if this deserves the mark you give it? Like,
yeah.
And I think the it's not a flaw in the movie. It's just for my appreciation of what was built up and what was executed, I would have liked to have seen him have a moment with Ned as well, because Ned is important to him as well.
I entirely agree, especially when you consider the look and the hug they give each other after they reconnect after Endgame, after they both come back from the blip. That to me is like, and now knowing that you know, from the Hawkeye episode, the blip from Yelena, her perspective, like how instantaneous it was for her to be like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like that was like a second or a minute or something like that. What the hell just happened? Like for them to be like, no, that second was still a lifetime away from each other, even if it felt like that. And to know that they're okay, and like that longingness of like,
it still would have been time away, because more what they're playing there is they didn't come back together, so they blipped and they don't know if the other one came back or what happened to them.
Or if it would have been weird if one blipped and one didn't, like if Ned didn't blip and he's now 5 years older than Peter, like how that, you know what I mean? Like he's like,
it was the uncertainty, and then it was coming back to being like, good, you're here. And obviously Tom still has to fight for the end of Endgame, so there is more than just that seconds away from each other. There was
of course
time where they did not know what the status was for the other person.
Yes, absolutely. But you're right. For the entire franchise, for everything they did, for all these characters and what they worked towards, I did feel like Ned got shafted. His character got shafted there.
At the end, yes.
Yes, at the very end.
Used very well up until they were like, well, let's just focus on the MJ stuff.
Entirely agree. Entirely.
Okay, you want to talk about Doctor Strange?
I do want to talk about Strange and Wong. I love the technicality that Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme because he did not get blipped. And now, and like, I remember all those breakdown and analytic like YouTube videos and everything like that I watched. They were like, is this really Doctor Strange? He seems different and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, he's just a brat now again because he's not in control anymore.
I feel like that was based on them putting stuff in the trailer that's not in the movie. Like Wong doesn't say, "Don't do that, Strange," and he
that's
goes,
true.
"Oh, I won't," and winks.
He's just keep me out of this.
He's just like, you're gonna do what you want to do. I don't want any parts of this. Like, it is a different dynamic than what they set up in the trailer. Like the trailer really makes it seem like, wow, like Strange is really fucked up now. Look at what he's doing. Like it was like he had the conversation, and Wong was like, I'm just not gonna be involved. Then go ahead. Bye.
Yeah. It's weird that Wong, being the Sorcerer Supreme, being like, we got to stay on top of this shit. And would be like to Strange. It's like, hey, yeah, I just don't tell me the details and we'll be fine. Like
my take on that is that he spent enough time with Strange that he's like, well, you're not an idiot. Like you think this needs to happen. Okay. I'm not going to help you with it, but if you think this is something that needs to happen, then go ahead. I told you what could go wrong. I told you why you shouldn't do it, and you still think you should do it. All right, go for it. And I think it also played into what he said. Like, I have bigger things to deal with than like what you're doing here, or like he obviously needs to care about his Sorcerer Supreme, but that means a bunch of other stuff. It's kind of like the Captain Marvel thing of like, yeah, this is important, but I also need to be elsewhere too.
Yes.
Things,
like
track.
Yeah,
especially since the other Sanctum Sanctorums have been destroyed and stuff. Like
that. The London and the Hong Kong ones. So that's the only portal from everything.
Yeah, so he needs to be more places than other Sorcerer Supremes have had to be. I'm assuming. But yeah, I think you're right that there was a lot of debate. I bought into it. Like, yeah, that's not really Doctor Strange, but it's like it is. It's just
him being a brat.
Again, no more. I mean, he always is, but like the trailers made it seem like he really was like off his rocker. That's not actually how it plays out.
Yeah, we looked genuinely like there was a variant at play here. Glad that wasn't a misdirect, and he was just being like, hey, I'm not a brat when I'm not in control, or I'm a brat when I'm not in control, and when I'm in control, I'm just like telling everyone to do sternly and ordering everyone around. It's that just Strange, I guess. It's his ego. I mean, he's basically Iron Man in that egotistical sense, right? Top of the profession and all that kind of stuff, untouchable. Boom, reality check. But yeah, Doctor Strange and Wong in this were fantastic. I love that Wong is now his title, at least.
I heard on a podcast someone was like, they didn't get into it. I didn't listen far enough to hear, but they're like, oh, is Wong like deserving of it? I'm like, yes he is.
Yes, he is.
Are you fucking dumb? Like, I don't know where it's going, but I'm just like,
that's dumb. You do the job for 5 years. Keep the job. What the hell?
It's not just those 5 years. He's been there like way longer than Doctor Strange. He knows what to do.
Absolutely. And let's be honest, when people are debating that, I'm like, really ask yourself why you're saying that, because I know why you're saying that, and it's not a good thing. No, it's just like, it's not a good question. You're ultimately saying something that's really, really shitty.
You're telling on yourself.
Yeah. And especially when you know that the chances of Wong dying in the Multiverse of Madness is very freaking high. So, come on, man. Like, don't say that. Don't say that shit, especially when you know it's got undertones of racism in there. Just it's not,
and it is from a Black person, so it's obviously internalized. Stuff that he's taken on, but rough stuff.
It is rough, but yes, he is 100%. He's been doing Sanctum Sanctorum stuff longer than Strange has. Just because Strange has an eidetic memory or whatever, and he had the eye of Agamotto first.
We don't have to talk around it. Just because Strange is the white guy in the situation doesn't mean that he's the right guy for it.
Yeah, exactly. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. He will take that mantle back again. I promise the audience that.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry, guys.
Don't worry. The white guy will be back on top. I insert eye roll because I realize this is a podcast, so you guys can't see my facial reaction.
What else? I mean, I was really happy that both Toby and Andrew were in it. I love all the times they're talking, and I was so happy that they addressed the whole like
organic.
You just make that. How do you do it? Like, I can't tell you how I do it because I don't make breathing. I just breathe, and I love Andrew's like, whoa,
because that's the best way to describe it. Like, I don't actively do breathing. I just breathe, and I'm like, yeah, that's the best way to put. And then when Tom is like, yeah, of course, Tom would ask that question. It's like, so does it come out of anywhere else?
Is it just your wrist? He's like, it's just my wrist.
It's so invasive. And it's like, so it's all the time. It's like, and I do like, actually this one time I had an existential crisis where it just didn't work anymore.
Oh yeah. Like, do you have web blockage? It's like, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking, I did. Like, I love how they were like not joking. I mean, they were, but like, it felt more natural. It wasn't like quips. It was just like, yeah, you mentioned that, and I was just thinking, yeah, I did have a thing as an existential crisis, and I love at the end. Like, I thought for sure they were killing off Toby because
I thought they were.
I felt like he was like, just kill me off. I don't want to do this anymore. I was like major like Harrison Ford vibes, but then he's still alive. I just love Andrew being like, "You're in a lot of pain, aren't you?" He's like, "Yes."
Oh yeah, and Ellie's like, "Don't worry, I've been stabbed before," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? Who says that?" Like, oh god,
I liked it though, because I was like,
liked it.
I don't remember him being stabbed before, but I was just like, okay, like, because I thought for sure, like, oh, they're killing him, and he's like, nah, I've been stabbed before. I'm like, all right, great, then you're gonna live. Good.
I guess that's the end of that dialogue, but
yeah, everything to do with the three Spider-Men interacting with each other is great. I like that. I guess Toby never gets a chance to really do anything on his own, but that's fine. I did hear rumors that it was like gonna lean more towards Andrew, which I don't think actually ended up being the case. It felt like pretty even, but yeah, it seemed at first when Andrew was the first to come through, I'm like, oh wow, they're really committing to it's gonna be more Andrew than Toby, but it ended up evening out. And again, as I said, I liked him being like, why would I just walk around with the suit on? Like, oh, it's not really a secret identity then.
Yeah, like there's so many things about everything that happened in that scene that are hilarious. It's like the fact that he's like hanging on the wall is like, no, crawl. It's like, no, I think this is sufficient.
Oh, Andrew, I was talking about Toby, but yes, and the Andrew stuff was like, what else would I do to prove it? Like, how am I sticking to the wall then? She's like, I don't, like, can you get cobwebs?
How am I doing this? It's like, I'm doing this, like, this is enough. It's so funny. Yeah, I really like that the spider sense was active even though his body was not conscious. Like, he was not,
that's why he was moving.
And that's why his arm was moving
so
away
we
from
should
Strange.
Explain the situation is Doctor Strange from the trailers pushes Tom from his physical form, and
astral
even though he's astral projecting, Tom's body is still moving the box away from Doctor Strange, as you said, because of Spidey sense. I didn't know that was the thing. I'm assuming that's been confirmed somewhere, but yeah,
that's my automatic assumption because there's no other way to describe it. Realistically,
in the moment, I was like, how are they describing this? But then I was like, you know what? I don't care. This is interesting enough to me.
Yeah, I believe it's the spider sense. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But then the funny thing is the spider sense doesn't actually end up occurring the exact same way. I don't know, because that might be okay. That's how you're able to dodge those crazy things during the fights. But
I did read that his spider sense is visible on his astral, so maybe it is just working with the physical. You can see like comic accurate like Spidey sense tingling stuff happening. I don't remember that, but that's what I read. So you're right that it's got to be the spider sense, but I think it is working in tandem as opposed to just separately. It's that his spider sense is going off, so the physical it can still work.
Nerve like if you have a coma patient, they'll still have the knee jerk thing if you do the hammer thing on their knee. Cool. That was fun. I really liked how they sidelined him, Doctor Strange.
Just trapped him.
They just trapped him. And the fact is like, I've been hanging over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours. To be clear, not
they. Tom did with using math. Tom trapped him.
Yes, Tom
I just didn't want people to
using
get the sense that like the Spider-Man did.
No,
it's Tom, and that was kind of what I was saying earlier, that they showed that he is very capable, and it was nice to see him working with other people and using other people's tech, but he doesn't need it. It's kind of, again, I felt like this paid off a bunch of stuff that we'd already seen, and he didn't use the suit in that sense in that moment, in terms of if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it. It was he's using his math and is able to trap Doctor Strange.
Because the funny thing is, coming through this, and I think this is an interesting thing, we never really see the spider sense AI anymore. So to me, is that a way that we're trying to get the audience to understand that he's just naturally not needing that stuff anymore for his Spider-Man?
Like the heads-up display that
the UI, the user interface.
I don't remember the name of the character, but was it
Edith?
Karen?
Or no, it was
not
Edith,
the glasses,
or
not the
Friday.
Edith is
or
the glass.
Yeah.
He never
did
had
this with
Friday. He had
it was Friday
Jennifer
or-
Connelly in his head, and I thought her name was Karen.
It was not Karen.
Okay.
There's no way it was Karen.
All right.
I do not believe it was Karen.
Let's find out right now.
Because there's
but-
Jarvis, then it was Wednesday, wasn't it? Or Friday?
No,
it was a
because you're
day of
still
the week.
thinking about Iron Man. He didn't have. He never had.
Oh, you're
Iron
talking about
Man's
the
AI.
you're talking about Spider-Man's AI.
It was Karen, by the way.
It was Karen. Oh, damn it! Oh, I just don't think anyone's named Karen anymore for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, that's from 2017. So it
Fair
didn't
enough.
have-
The last Karen. I do want to find that that person who is, and then have a documentary made about the last Karen never named.
So what else is going on here? Do you want to talk about the post-credit scenes?
I definitely do, but I just want to point out real quick that at the age of like what 60 something, William Dafoe only did this movie if he could do Willem. He only did this movie if he could do his own stunts. So hats off to him. He's he committed to that. But even
I'm on the side of actors being like, let people get paid to do what they actually train to do and let stunt people do it. But sure.
Except for Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan is different, but Jackie
he is a
Chan
stunt
is different.
Yeah, he
Jackie
is a
Chan
stuntman.
is different. Jackie Chan isn't. Yeah, Jackie Chan's different. That's all.
Well,
I'll say.
he's a trained stuntman first, and then did that. So everything he
and
does
he
makes
gets
sense.
to be an actor as well. So I mean,
Yes, but you're right. I 100% agree with you. Make more jobs for
let the
people that
profession
do their thing
make more jobs
properly.
But I
Because
do
this
like
is how
the-
we get injuries to Letitia Wright, and we have to postpone Black Panther for a few months.
Yes,
for recording,
and
which is
hopefully
very
give her time
unfortunate.
to realize she should get vaccinated.
Yes, please.
But I'm happy that he leaned into it.
Mhm.
I'm so happy he went back at the end of the movie. I was so scared that the rumors were true and they were going to keep him as the Norman Osborn, because especially he has a line where he's like, there's no Oscorp here or anything. I'm like, please don't let him stay.
Yeah.
Like I
want to move on from that.
Even if they don't use Norman Osborn, I'm like, I don't want to keep that going.
Yeah, I would. I don't want that to keep
Yeah.
going. There's enough Green Goblin that we've seen. There's enough,
Mhm.
like
And
the Harry Osborn stuff.
They
We've
still
seen
have
that too many
given
times.
Tom reason to hate a Green Goblin. Like Green Goblin killed
100%.
Aunt May. So like we don't
Yeah.
need. Yeah, like I think he served his purpose. I'm glad everyone went back.
Mhm.
And I guess we should say Dr. Octopus is a good guy pretty much as soon as they figure out to switch his chip.
Yep,
It's fine.
which I do love.
I
do
am
like that.
happy for that. And it's not like there's a big team up with him. He
No.
does help them. But
Yeah, because
It's
Octavius
enough.
is all like, "Oh, you can cure me and send me back to my world, and I can try my reactor again.
Mhm.
Cool. This is all working well for me. So let me help you help me." That it just makes sense to me. I mean, the electro motivation makes sense. I mean, like
Everyone
the
made sense. I think-
everyone made sense. Yeah,
Even the lizard being like, I don't need to be a part of this. I mean, it makes sense to me because the whole point to Lizard was like, this is the better way to live. I'm actually happy the way
Yeah.
I am, and I wish everyone else was like this.
yes,
So that made sense that he's like, you can just keep me in the truck. I don't need to go upstairs and get
yes,
I don't need that.
Yeah.
It sidelines him, but also I'm not a
Mm.
Lizard fan, so I wasn't like, oh, I wish there was more. And I was like, also like,
Mm.
but else, who else are you gonna choose from the Mark Webb movies? Like kind of has
Paul
to be Lizard.
Giamatti, baby.
I mean, I remember everyone thought for sure he was in it, but
Well, I could
I
kind of
think-
see why, considering the whole Sinister Six angle, and then throwing
well, I'm
Rhino.
glad that also this wasn't Sinister Six. I know that
Yes.
ultimately they fight, but I thought that it worked better as this redemption thing and how
Yes.
Peter as Tom, all of the characters I feel are working through redemption. Some of them want it, some
Yeah.
of them don't.
Mhm.
But everyone, even Doctor Strange, is working through redemption because he was gone and he kind of feels like I need to get back to where I was. I think everyone in this is dealing with redemption, and anyone
Yeah.
who has a significant role is dealing with redemption. And I appreciated that. We also didn't mention that Matt Murdock is his lawyer, which everyone assumed.
Yeah,
I I mean, sure, he got such a big reaction in my audience. I was like, nah. I like the brick thing, I guess. I'll say that.
The brick
I
thing was
like
great.
I like him catching the brick and being like, I'm a very good lawyer. But like,
That was a good line.
but I'm just like, ah, all right.
No,
whatever.
it's just now the speculation for Hawkeye finale begins. So as
No,
y'all
let's
are
not get
listening
into
to
that just
this
yet.
on
Let's not get into that
no.
just
I'm
yet.
not saying
Yeah.
that I'm going to go into that. I'm just plugging our episode for the finale.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
about
coming.
to jump ahead there.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
let's wait until
We
we
are definitely
finish
there.
this movie. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But-
yes, he is very early on. He's the first like big reaction in the movie.
I'm
Okay,
glad
I don't care.
they
I
got-
like
yeah.
I like the brick thing.
I am glad they got that out of the way really, really fast. Because then
Yes,
I
and
felt like,
then you're-
oh, I don't have to wait for this anymore.
I wish it was Tatiana Maslany She-Hulk, but
Mm,
only because she's gonna have
hear
a
ya.
show. I was
Yeah.
like, but I understand people love Daredevil and people love Charlie Cox as Daredevil. So
yeah. And Kingpin too. So we'll see.
yes, and I'm
Mhm.
hoping that Kingpin serves more of the Norman Osborn thing for because I think that's what would set Tom apart from the other Spider-Man is
Yeah.
that he's not dealing with an Oscorp, he's dealing with a Kingpin Wilson Fisk
Yeah.
type thing. I hope
Yeah.
that's where they're going with it. But
I
do
hope
you
so
wanna-
too.
Do you want to go to the post credits?
Yeah, first post-credit scene. What happened here? So I did not like this because I'm like, oh, great. So we have Venom here. We're making a big deal of this, and we're sending him back immediately, albeit we're leaving 5 grams of symbiote here.
So this is what I was saying when you were
Rough.
at the end of your thing. You're like, "Oh, he's gonna be," and I'm like, I don't think he's gonna have any significance. He was sidelined, and then he goes right back, and I was like,
What a bummer.
it seems like a long way to walk just to get to let's
Yes.
be able to have our own version of a Venom story.
Of the symbiote. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it
like it
they
was a
could have done
long
the
walk.
symbiote storyline a different way.
They could have just
done
ignored
it-
the Tom Hardy stuff.
They could have done the
realistically.
moon thing again. They could have done whatever, but like what? Like it's not.
So that was
Whatever.
I knew that was coming, and I was just like, this somehow is worse than what I thought was gonna happen. I don't
Oh, it's
like-
worse. Oh, it's worse for sure.
Like I heard what it was, and I thought it was gonna be funnier at least. And
Mm.
I was just, I did like when he was like, "So tell me again about the purple guy who likes jewelry."
yeah,
'Cause,
yeah, that was
um,
funny.
And then he's like, "That's not funny. He took away my family." And he's like, "Okay, all right, sorry."
Yeah.
But yeah, I was. I didn't like the post credit scenes. The next one is
I-
basically the.
It's a freaking trailer, so it's not a scene.
But I mean it was set up less as a trailer because I don't think that's how the trailer would actually play because they are showing you actual scenes play out
Okay.
as
Okay,
not as trailer.
true.
It
true.
is.
I guess teaser. I don't know. First look. Let's first look.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
sure, you can get into some answers, but what I'm saying is waiting after the credits, you get content. If that's how you want to put it. The content that
Yes.
happens during and after the credits, I didn't much care for because I was kind of like, I guess people really liked seeing Strange Supreme
Yeah.
at the end. and I was
Whether or not that is confirmed to be Strange Supreme, we
I think
don't
that's
know
the
yet.
idea that
I think so too.
it's just as we both said that wasn't really my jam while watching What If.
right.
But I understand that
then-
he's not just tied to What If, but I was
Yes.
kind of like, nah, all right.
The concern I have is if this is the what if Strange Supreme, then the ultimate question, because I mean, like, it leads me to think that because obviously the visuals, but obviously a lot of the similar monsters that he fights in the what if episode show up here too. So one of the biggest questions I have here is, okay, if they're bringing that in the what if aspect into this, cool, I get that. It might bode well for people that are really looking forward to seeing a live action Captain Britain. So good luck for you,
Who they said
people.
would be in this.
Yes.
In-
Okay.
sorry,
Cool.
in
Multiverse?
Multiverse of Madness, yes.
That's cool. Okay. So the ultimate question ends up being like, okay, where we ended off with Strange Supreme in the What If episode was he was overwatching freaking Killmonger, juiced up Killmonger, and
I think that was
what's his
supposed to be
face?
a different. Was that? I don't know if that was supposed to be Strange Supreme.
Yeah, that is Strange Supreme. He watches that pocket dimension for the rest of eternity.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say
Okay.
I think that was supposed to be just Doctor Strange. I think Strange Supreme was a separate entity.
Is he a separate entity? What's the difference between, because I'm not too familiar with the Strange IP.
And I don't know either. I don't care.
Fair
I
enough.
just know that they have very distinct looks. And
Fair enough.
so
Yeah.
I think this trailer or whatever you want to call it was showing you that they had Strange Supreme confined and now he's out. Yeah, I think
Gotcha.
that's what they were trying to show.
Mhm.
This isn't me saying I know for a fact. You could be right and they're the same thing, but my feeling is they are two separate entities.
Gotcha. Yeah, because if it is trying to do the live action what if kind of continue on that story plot, that's going to be messy. Because it's going to be just messy.
Well, I can see why Scott Derrickson left. If this seems like a dumping ground for every concept they've ever had. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, we just watched them do a movie that feels like it could have been an execution, a dumping ground of every idea they've had. So
Yes.
I'm not saying that Multiverse of Madness is going to be bad. I'm saying I can understand how a director that obviously had a different vision would be like, well, I don't want to do this. If you're going to force me to take on all this stuff and it becomes less my idea and more
I have to,
which is why I was also like, why did Sam Raimi agree to that? That was his big concern.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man 3 is that they kept forcing him to put things in. But we'll see
how
how it goes.
Maybe the money's too good this time. Maybe
I liked the first Doctor Strange way more than I thought I would, so there's no reason for me to feel like this is going to be such a big decrease in my enjoyment.
No, it doesn't look like that whatsoever. It looks like we're going to get a lot of world building. America Chavez was captured a few times in sight, so that's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more about that character because it sounds really, really cool. Obviously, Wanda is in
other
this
universes.
Yeah, cool. She's got like this she's like made of energy or something like that, and she's looking for her two moms that are lost in
the only thing,
space and time.
The only thing I will say is in the comics she is Afro-Latina. They did not go that way here.
Disappointing.
I think that I haven't read it, so maybe it doesn't factor in, but I feel like if you do Afro-Latina, because it's so hotly debated, like people like Cardi B constantly have to like fight and push back, so it's not like an old thing. Like it is a thing that like if you are putting Afro-Latina, Afro-Latino, it usually means something. It's probably important to the character that someone would write it that way. The same way I was pushing like, yeah, it should be a Jewish person that plays Moon Knight, because when you read what his conflict is, it is about how religious his dad was and how he feels like that molds how he operates in the world. So it's not like I'm just like, if they're black, you gotta put them black, and who cares what else. Like I understand the importance of when it is written into the characters' origins and how they operate in life and how they view the world. You probably should get someone that represents that as well.
I would heavily agree with that. That's very, very accurate statement. So it's kind of disappointing to hear that the America Chavez is not Afro-Latino, like you say, and I hope that they don't do that character injustice.
Maybe people will just be happy to see the comic book stuff she does.
Maybe because it appears that they're already altering Miss Marvel's Kamala Khan's powers,
and I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. I will agree.
I don't know how. I mean, I think I've seen how it looks, and I'm just like,
it just looks like energy punch. It's just like an energy projection.
That if you know for a fact they're bringing Reed Richards in, maybe you do change Kamala Khan a bit, just so that they can work together, and you don't feel. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying if they were together at any point, you don't feel like, well, they do the same thing.
Yeah, because they do essentially.
So yeah,
except Kamala has less of the aerospace engineer aspect of it.
But that's that's Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
We're gonna smells
rate
like we're inching towards Raiden here.
Do you want to go first or me?
I'll go first.
All right.
This is a strong 9.5. This is a strong 9.5 to me.
Wow, we have the exact same rating.
Knew it, baby.
The exact same rating, both 9.5. I think this is excellent for fans of Spider-Man. I think the execution is great, and I do feel that actually gives you a whole bunch of emotions. You will laugh. I almost cried,
Mhm.
and you will feel the energy and fist pumping stuff. I think it's
Yes.
really good. I would just say that and again, to clarify, I wouldn't say take Jamie Foxx out. It's just he didn't fit the narrative in terms
Mhm.
of people who know Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and also he
Yes.
is not playing it like he did in the Mark Webb movies.
Not at all.
So it's, while I enjoyed what he did, I was still like, it's making me think about it too much.
Yes.
I'm being pulled out.
Yeah.
And
the Ned thing.
the Ned thing. I think the Ned thing is another issue I had. But anyway, 9.5. Thank
Yep.
you very much, everybody, for
Mhm.
listening. We hope you enjoyed. As Ben said, we do have our Hawkeye episode coming next for the finale, but
Yes.
we hope you enjoyed this. We are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network. Other great shows such as Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Changing Reels, Composers, a whole bunch of great stuff. So please listen to those. Listen to us on thatshelf.com. If you want to hear older episodes, we're at tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Twitter is at tdfspoiled. Please rate, review, subscribe on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all iHeartRadio, all bunch of places. If we're not where you like to listen to podcasts, please let us know, and we will put ourselves there. Enjoy the rest of your day whenever you listen to this.
Yeah, we'll put this on a cassette tape and mail it to you if you want to.
Fair
If that's
enough.
what your podcasting streaming options are, we'll get you there.
Awesome.
Take
All
care,
right,
everyone.
bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.